Hello and welcome to NHL Update. Today I will be breaking down and predicting the Round 1 NHL playoff matchups. The Eastern Conference playoff matchups will be looking like this. The Washington Capitals will be playing the Philadelphia Flyers. The Florida Panthers will be playing the New York Islanders. The Pittsburgh Penguins will be playing the New York Rangers. And the Tampa Bay Lightning will be playing the Detroit Red Wings. In the Western Conference, the Dallas Stars will be playing the Minnesota Wild. The Anaheim Ducks will be playing the Nashville Predators. The St. Louis Blues will be playing the Chicago Blackhawks. And the LA Kings will be playing the San Jose Sharks. I'll start with breaking down the Eastern Conference matchups, and then I'll move on to the Western Conference. Let's start with the Washington Capitals versus the Philadelphia Flyers. On paper, this matchup definitely favors the Washington Capitals heavily, but the game is not played on paper. The goaltenders in this matchup are both worth noting. Steve Mason is arguably one of the hottest goalies in NHL right now. He may have single-handedly carried the Flyers into the playoffs. Braden Holtby arguably was one of the best goalies in the whole NHL this year and is a heavy Vezina Trophy candidate this year. So the goaltending matchup is definitely worth noting. If Flyers want to win the series, Steve Mason will have to stand on his head. Braden Holtby will have to be good as well, because the Flyers have a good power play and they have some talented players that can score. Some key players on the fence for the Flyers are Shane Gostisbehere, the rookie sensation, who is making a serious consideration for Rookie of the Year and has turned into that power play anchor for the Flyers, and as well has turned into an all-situational player, and Mark Streit, who is a veteran presence on the blue line that plays in all situations. And for the Washington Capitals, the key defensemen are John Carlson, Brooks Orpik, and Matt Niskanen. John Carlson and Brooks Orpik are the shutdown defensemen, or shutdown tandem for the Washington Capitals. They will be playing against the opposition's top line, meaning the Giroux line. Matt Niskanen is an important part of the team as well. He is going to play on the second power play. He plays in all situations as well. Another defenseman to watch out for that I didn't list as key defenseman that is making a strong presence lately is Dmitry Orlov, the Russian defenseman. He has a lot of talent and is known for jumping into the play and making defensemen scramble. In a playoff series like this, Dmitry Orlov may be able to make a difference. Jacob Voracek needs to show up in the conversation. Jacob Voracek has been very quiet, to say the least, this year. If the Flyers are to win the series, Voracek needs to show up. For the Washington Capitals, Alexander Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, and Evgeny Kuznetsov are the big three in Washington. They also have a couple other key players in like Marcus Johansson, Justin Williams, TJ Oshie. But the focus is on Alex Ovechkin, Backstrom, and Evgeny Kuznetsov. The X factor for the Capitals is depth. They have 4 lines deep, and they have 3 good defensive pairs, as well as a good goaltender. The key X factor for the Flyers will be Sean Couturier. This series definitely favors the Washington Capitals, so I will say Capitals in 5. Next series is the Florida Panthers versus the New York Islanders. This is the other matchup in the Eastern Conference that people want to see, mostly because John Tavares is a must-see superstar, and because the Islanders are an exciting team to watch. The Florida Panthers are probably the most surprising team this year, and the myth, the legend, Jaromir Jagr is having such an amazing year despite being the age of 44. That's just amazing. And this could very well be his last playoff run, so you never know. The goaltenders in this matchup will be for the Islanders, Thomas Greiss and Chris Gibson. Why I said Greiss and Gibson? Because you don't know who the Islanders are going to go with. If one of the goaltenders struggle, they'll go with the other one. So it's not a set in stone thing, as with Luongo with the Panthers. You know Luongo's going to be the number 1 goalie, and he's going to be the guy for the Panthers. But for the Islanders, since Halak is injured, you don't know if they're going to go to Greiss or Gibson. But although I think they're going to start Greiss at first, but if it doesn't pan out, they'll go with Gibson. Key defensive players for the Panthers are Aaron Ekblad, Ryan Campbell, and Willie Mitchell. Willie Mitchell is the captain of the Panthers and is one of the few players on the Panthers defense that has playoff experience, with the exception of Ryan Campbell. Ryan Campbell is going to have to play an important role in this playoffs for the Panthers. He is a puck-moving defenseman. He's a veteran defenseman. So he's going to have to help William Mitchell in mentoring these young kids that have never played in playoff series. And arguably the most important piece for the Panthers on the fence is Aaron Ekblad. He is their future stud on the fence. He's their cornerstone. Aaron Ekblad is going to have to play a big role in shutting down John Tavares' line. For the Islanders, they will rely heavily upon Johnny Boychuk and Nick Leddy, which is their top pair, as well as Thomas Hickey or Calvin Devine, as Travis Hamonick's status for the playoffs is questionable. So, in the absence of Travis Hamonick, either Hickey or Devine will have to step up in his absence. Key forwards for the Panthers are the Jagr line, which includes Jaromir Jagr, Alexander Barkov, and Jonathan Huberdeau. Jonathan Huberdeau has resurrected his career after a bad year. He had a sophomore slump, but he bounced back. Alexander Barkov had a great year as well, but that is all overshadowed by the year that Jaromir Jagr is having. He is their leading goal scorer, which is pretty amazing. He is the guy that's getting all the media attention despite the year Florida's having. Jussi Jokinen is another player to watch out for. Yuji Jokinen is quietly having a great year. And it's not getting talked about. Nick Bjugstad is another player that will play a major role. He was playing on the second line with Jokinen and Riley Smith. Before Vincent Trocheck got injured, Nick Bjugstad was playing on the third line, so he didn't get to make as much a difference. But now with Trocheck injured, Bjugstad's going to have to step up. For the Islanders, the key forwards would be John Tavares, Kyle Oposo, and Franz Nielsen. John Tavares obviously is a superstar, and they're going to rely heavily upon him for production. You know he's going to show up, and you know he's going to produce. Oposo and Franz Nielsen are pretty solid as well. So the difference is who else shows up. And that leads me to the X factor. For the Islanders, it's Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome didn't really have a great regular season, but the New York Islanders drafted him with such high expectations. He was supposed to be a difference maker when he got drafted. He has a lot of skill, and maybe in the playoffs, he can make his breakthrough. For the Panthers, it's Jerry Hiller. He's playing on the third line. And anytime you have a former 30-goal scorer playing on the third line, that is an advantage for your team. This series seems to be quite even, but the Islanders do have the superstar on their team that can take over the game. So I'll say Islanders in 6. The series that everyone wants to see is the Penguins versus the New York Rangers. And that's the most anticipated series in the Eastern Conference. In goal for the Penguins, Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury are going to probably split time due to the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury has a concussion right now, so his status for the start of the series is unknown. Obviously, when Fleury comes back, he's going to get the starting goal. But if he's not ready to return at the beginning of the series, Matt Murray is probably going to start the series. Matt Murray is a good goalie. He's played very well for them down the stretch in absence of Marc-Andre Fleury. The thing is, what happens when Matt Murray does good in the playoffs? Do you go to Fleury and take the win out of the sail when the team is doing good with Murray, or do you continue going Murray? And then for the New York Rangers, obviously it's going to be Henrik Lundqvist. There's no debate about that. The only thing about Lundqvist is that he's been pulled 7 times this season. That's something to watch for. Maybe fatigue after all these years is catching up to him. Some key players for the Penguins: Chris Letang, Trevor Daley, and Brian Dumoulin. With Ole Lana's status unknown, Brian Dumoulin needs to step up and play a key role in shut down defense. Trevor Daley, ever since he was acquired from Chicago, he has played tremendous for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But the model is consistency, and the guy that logs a lot of minutes is Chris Letang for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Chris Letang is their rock and their cornerstone on defense. For the Rangers, the shutdown tandem will be Benna and Girardi, as usual. they will be held responsible for playing against the Crosby line, which includes Patrick Hornquist and Chris Kunitz. Mark Stahl will be another important shutdown defenseman. He will be matched up against Phil Kessel. Keith Yandle is another important defenseman. He's going to be on the first power play unit, and he plays on the third defensive pair, but mostly for the first power play unit. Key forwards for the Penguins: Sidney Crosby and Patrick Hornquist, as well as Chris Kunitz. That first line has been on fire lately, so the Crosby line is definitely something to watch for. Phil Kessel, even though he doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, he still is the star player. And with star players, you always have to keep an eye on them. Malkin, perhaps Malkin's status is unknown for the series. If Malkin is unable to go, Nick Bonino needs to step up and play as well as he did during the recent stretch that he was out in the regular season. But Nick Bonino is a drastic step back from Malkin, to say the least. For the New York Rangers, the key forwards are Matt Zuccarello, Derek Stepan, Chris Kreider, Eric Stahl, and JT Miller. The Rangers don't really rely on one specific player per se. They rely on a whole bunch of key players. So the collection of key players like Zuccarello, Stepan, Kreider, Stahl, and Eric Stahl, and JT Miller will be an important part of the team. The X factor for the New York Rangers is Rick Nash. Rick Nash has been so quiet this season and has been an annual playoff choker. Is this finally the year where Rick Nash gets any playoff production? Will he finally live up to the bright lights of New York City? And the X factor for the Penguins is former New York Ranger Carl Hagelin. Who knows the New York Ranger system better than Carl Hagelin? Carl Hagelin has speed, and he could make some mismatches with that speed. This is a pretty even matchup because of Sidney Crosby. He can single-handedly win a game by himself. But without Malkin playing, this does favor the Rangers slightly, so I'll have to say Rangers in 6 or 7. The Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Detroit Red Wings series will be an intense matchup because this is the second year that they have played each other in the first round. However, it's not going to be the same because the Tampa Bay Lightning are banged up. They don't have Stamkos, they don't have Tyler Johnson likely, they don't have Callahan, they don't have Strawman. Kucherov is out, possibly. Hedman is questionable. There's just so many injuries for the Lightning. So this may be a gift for the Red Wings. The goaltending matchup is Ben Bishop versus Peter Mrazek. As I mentioned before, there are many injuries for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So in order for the Tampa Bay Lightning to win the series, they will definitely have to have Ben Bishop stand on his head. Peter Mrazek played very well in the previous meeting last year in the playoffs. So Peter Mrazek will have to play well as well. This will be an interesting goaltending matchup, as both goalies have a history of playing well in clutch situations. The key defensemen for the Lightning are Victor Hedman as Strawman is out. With all the injuries the Lightning have, I fully expect Victor Hedman to try to play. Because if Victor Hedman doesn't play, the Lightning really don't stand a chance. The Detroit Red Wings' key defensemen are Danny DeKeyser, Mike Green, and Nicholas Kronwall. All these three defensemen are capable of playing in all situations. Well, Kronwall and DeKeyser, that is. And Mike Green is a good puck-moving defenseman. Mike Green is a difference maker on defense. He was very quiet this regular season, but hopefully he can turn it up in the postseason. DeKeyser is slowly turning into the number one defenseman for the Detroit Red Wings and is replacing Kronwall as that role. The key forwards for the Tampa Bay Lightning are Nikita Kucherov, Andre Palat, and Jonathan Drouin. Like I said before, Kucherov's status is unknown. We don't know if Kucherov is available for the series, but if he's able to play, he's definitely the most important player, as he was the leading point getter. Andre Palat is an important part of the team as well. If Kucherov doesn't play, then Valtteri Filppula is going to have to play a big role in the Lightning, especially with Tyler Johnson out and Stamkos out. And the last key player is Jonathan Drouin. Jonathan Drouin is obviously the biggest controversy for the Lightning. He's been a distraction almost all year for them. Maybe this is finally the time where he gets to show them he is worth the struggle. The Detroit Red Wings have a few key players. They are a team that has always been known for depth, but this year that depth hasn't been showing up. So the key players are Henrik Zetterberg, Dylan Larkin, and Gustav Nyquist. Those three players are their key scorers. The X factors for the series are injuries for the Lightning, which definitely alter the series because if everyone's healthy, the Lightning would probably win the series. But since Stamkos, Strawman, Callahan, and Johnson are out, that definitely favors the Red Wings. And the X factor for the Red Wings is Pavel Datsyuk. Pavel Datsyuk may be playing in his last NHL playoffs, so we may have to relish this as the last time we see Pavel Datsyuk play in the NHL. This series favors the Detroit Red Wings because of the injuries that Tampa Bay has. I'll say Red Wings in 6. The Western Conference matchup between the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild seems like it would be the shortest in the Western Conference. The goaltending matchup would look like Antti Niemi and Kari Lehtonen versus Devin Dubnyk. The reason why I said Niemi and Lehtonen is because it really is up till game time until they decide on who's starting. Although I have a feeling they're going to go with Niemi because that's the goalie they went with down the stretch. And Niemi also has one Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks. So he does have playoff experience. Devin Dubnyk will have to play a big role if the Minnesota Wild are to win. Key defensive players for the Dallas Stars are Chris Russell, who was acquired on the trade deadline, join the rush and create offensive opportunities. He also anchors the first power play unit. Johnny Oduya, who has playoff experience with 2 cups in Chicago, that's why he was brought over to Dallas. And Alex Goligoski, who's another offensive defenseman. The Dallas Stars have a pretty deep defensive core now. And for the Minnesota Wild, you have Ryan Suter, Matt Dumba, and Jonas Brodin. So these 3 are going to be the defensemen probably logging the most minutes. Matt Dumba has improved a lot. Hopefully he will be that stable defensive player and the future stud defenseman that they were hoping to get when they drafted him. Jonas Brodin and Ryan Suter is going to be the shutdown pair for them. Although we know in the playoffs you need more than one shutdown pair. Key forwards for the Stars are Jamie Benn, Jason Spezza, and Patrick Sharp. Jamie Benn has been the best player for the Dallas Stars all season long, along with Tyler Seguin, but Tyler Seguin is injured right now. Jason Spezza is going to be an important part as well, as he'll play on the second line. And he finished off the season with a hat trick, so he's on the hot roll. Patrick Sharp, another former Stanley Cup champion, with 3. He's going to have to bring over his veteran presence into the playoffs. For the Minnesota Wild, it's Zach Parise, who's going to have to play a major role. Mikko Koivu and Mikael Granlund. The Minnesota Wild aren't too deep. They don't really have a lot of key offensive players, with Bannock injured, Parise not 100%. You only really have Granlund and Koivu, but Parise's gonna give it his all. So X factors are injuries because both Bannock and Seguin are injured, and Parise is not 100%. So that's gonna affect the outcome of the series. With that said, I'll say this series seems to favor the Stars in every aspect. I'll say Stars in 5. The Anaheim Ducks versus the Nashville Predators series will be a very hard-fought series with hard-hitting and physical play. The goaltending matchup will be the tandem of John Gibson and Frederik Andersen versus Pekka Rinne. Why I listed both goalies? Because they are still 1A, 1B. If any particular goalie struggles, they will just go with the other goalie. That's the luxury of having 2 good goalies. Although I have a feeling they're going to go with Gibson at first. And for the Nashville Predators, they're obviously going to go with Pekka Rinne. Anaheim obviously is the better team, but if the Nashville Predators want to have a chance to win the series, Pekka Rinne is going to have to play real well. The Anaheim Ducks have a few key defensive players in Kevin Bieksa, Cam Fowler, and Hampus Lindholm. Hampus Lindholm is already their top defenseman, and he's slowly emerging into one of the better two-way defensemen for them. Cam Fowler is also an important piece on defense, as is Kevin Bieksa. Lindholm and Bieksa will play the shutdown pair. Fowler is going to be playing on the first power play unit, so those defensemen are going to play important roles. For the Predators, Yossi and Weber, that's the first pair, and will play them major minutes and play against the top line for Anaheim Ducks. Another defenseman to look out for is Mattias Ekholm. Mattias Ekholm is a defenseman that doesn't really get mentioned plays a very solid brand of hockey. He's very reliable defensively, and he's kind of a guy that plays all situations. Key forwards for the Ducks are Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and Ryan Kessler, as well as Ricard Raquel, whose status is unknown right now. So if Ricard Raquel's status is unknown, then other players have to step up in his place. For the Nashville Predators, the key players are Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, and James Neal. Obviously, the Anaheim Ducks have more depth in their system, but the Nashville Predators are not lacking of any skill. I mean, Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, and James Neal are pretty skilled players. And they also have Mike Ribeiro, Mike Fisher, Colin Wilson, Craig Smith, guys that have been to the playoffs and produced before. So this will be an interesting series. The X factor of this series for the Ducks is Jacob Silfverberg. Jacob Silfverberg started off the season very slow and didn't really produce that much, but finished the season on a tear. The Predators, it's Colin Wilson. If you recall, the last season in the playoffs in the first round against Chicago, Colin Wilson was actually the leading goal scorer. He had 6 goals. So Colin Wilson will be an important piece, or the X factor, for the Predators. This series favors the Anaheim Ducks because they have better depth and a better overall team than the Nashville Predators. So I'll say Ducks in 6. Next series is the St. Louis Blues versus Chicago Blackhawks. This is definitely the most interesting matchup on paper. It is the most intriguing matchup in the Western Conference. It's such a shame that 2 great teams have to meet this early in the playoffs. For the St. Louis Blues, it will be Ryan Elliott in goal. For the Chicago Blackhawks, it will be Corey Crawford. Both goalies will have to play well because both teams have firepower. And it's arguable that for both teams, the goaltending may be the weakness. Because if you look at the key players on defense for the Blues, you have Shankar, Pietrangelo, and Bouwmeester. These are 3 really top-end defensemen that have played in the Olympics, World Championships, and they have played international and played in the playoffs before. And they have been all-stars. And for the Blackhawks, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, and Nicholas Johnson. Duncan Keith is suspended for 1 playoff game for his vicious slash to Charlie Coyle in the regular season. So they will have to have somebody step up in place of Duncan Keith for 1 game. That will be likely Trevor Van Riemsdyk. So the key forwards would be for the Blues, Vladimir Tarasenko, Alex Steen, and Paul Stastny, as well as Jason Schwartz. Vladimir Tarasenko may as well be one of the most exciting young players in the NHL. He just got his 40th goal in this season, making him one of the premier scorers in the league. He's almost a must-see player in the NHL. Alex Steen is also a premier sniper. He'll score. Paul Stastny is a good playmaker. And Jaden Schwartz is a great two-way player. For the Blackhawks, obviously you have a tandem of James and Kane, as well as Artemi Panarin and Andrew Ladd. These are the key players. The X factor is players stepping up in place of injured stars like Hossa for the Hawks and Backus for the Blues. This series is pretty even on paper, but because Chicago has 3 prior Stanley Cups in 6 years, you're going to have to give them the edge because of their playoff experience. They have a coach and they have the core that have won the Stanley Cup before, so I have to say Blackhawks at 6. And the last matchup in the first round and in the Western Conference is the LA Kings versus the San Jose Sharks. This will be a series full of bad blood, intensity, and should be highly competitive. The goaltending matchup will be Jonathan Quick versus Martin Jones. Jonathan Quick has been there before, and he's won the Conn Smythe Trophy. Martin Jones is fairly new to this, but this is a chance for Martin Jones to prove his former team wrong. I mean, a better way to prove that you were wrong for trading me away in the first place than to knock your team out in the first round. So this is a great narrative for Martin Jones. The key defensemen for the Kings are Drew Doughty and Jake Muzzin. These two are going to play big roles. Drew Doughty's going to log major minutes, as is Jake Muzzin, and these are 2 players that play in all situations. For the San Jose Sharks, Brett Burns, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, and Paul Martin, these are players that play in all situations as well. Brett Burns had an amazing year this year. This may have been his best year ever. So you're going to have to watch for Brent Burns jumping up in the rush and scoring goals. Key forwards for the Kings are Ante Kopitar, Jeff Carter, and Tyler Toffoli. The reason why I put Tyler Toffoli over Milan Lucic is because Tyler Toffoli plays in all situations. He plays on penalty kill as well. And Tyler Toffoli is one of their leading scorers. So there you go. For the San Jose Sharks, you have the core 4 of Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton, Joe Pavelski, and Logan Couture. These 4 are going to play a vital role in the team, and they'll have to all produce in order for them to beat the LA Kings. The X factor for the LA Kings is Milan Lucic. He was relatively quiet in the regular season, but as we all know, in the postseason, Lucic is a good performer. And I think his size is going to be a major problem for the Sharks. The X factor for the Sharks will be Thomas Hertl. He's not part of the core 4, but he'll be an important part because he's skilled and he plays on the second power play unit, which means he'll have to be a big part of that. The series favors the LA Kings because they kind of have a better team. They've been there and they won the Stanley Cup twice before in the last 5 years. So I'll say Kings in 6. I hope you enjoyed watching me break down and predict the matchups in the first round of the NHL playoffs. Next episode of NHL Update or NHL, I will be talking about